if you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Today I'd like to introduce you to Kirsten Beard-Adams. Kirsten's an FEI dressage specialist, rider, trainer, coach. She also trains young riders and trains them up to Grand Prix level and trains young horses as well. Kirsten is also a qualified saddle fitter, so we're going to ask her about some saddle fitting questions a little bit later on, and she's an equine acupuncturist. How are you, Kirsten?
Hello. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Good to talk to you. Kirsten, have you got a quote for us today, something that you may use in your lessons or something that's inspired you?
Yes, definitely. It's mainly used daily. Life's a journey. The climb is great, but the view is wonderful once you get to the top. And that's something that we also have in our stable block on a daily basis, so I think it's very important.
When did you first hear about it?
The quote?
Yeah.
Probably overseas, and also because my daughter is a young rider, and it's actually a Hannah Montana quote from a movie, and we've always taken it wherever we've been in the world. But as everyone knows, being in the equine industry, you have to be dedicated with a lot of hard work, but once you achieve it, it's a fantastic reward.
Yeah. Now, it's pretty fortunate for your daughter that you're there to help her and guide her along the way. What about how you started? Did you come from a horse family, or what was the story there?
Yes, my father in Western Australia, his father actually bred some of the light horsemen for the war, and also my mother family grew up in Gruyere, which is in Victoria, Lilydale, and they had horses on the farm. So it has been in the blood for a couple of generations. And then I've been able to pass it on to my daughter. So we've been very fortunate to have an equine background throughout our bloodline. So we're quite honoured, and there's a lot of great stories to be told within the family.
I'm sure there is, yeah. What about your memories? Do you remember the first time you had anything to do with horses or not?
Yes, well, we grew up in a suburb called East Ivanhoe on the boulevard, my sister and I as children in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
And we were very fortunate that we grew up on small acreage, but across the road from us was the Yarra River. And I used to always walk across the road to pat the horses, and it then became quite a regular moment for me straight after school to go down and sit on the fence, probably from the age of 8. And then I was offered a ride with a lady called Linda Hayes, who is now one of our top show riders, and she pretty much took me under her wing, and it all began from there. So we show rode for many, many years. We then moved out to outer skirts of Melbourne, where I was then introduced to an amazing lady called Virginia Creed, who is one of our top judges and trainers. And then she took me under her wing with Andrew McLean. And then I started dressage, and we haven't looked back. So we've just been very fortunate to have the right people behind us to also guide us through this industry. So, yeah, I'm very grateful.
Yeah, names like that and people like that to guide you, certainly that's something to be treasured, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we're forever friends with them now and very, very close relations. And yeah, so it's such a wonderful industry to be a part of when you have people who are willing to open their arms and help you at any stage when you need help. So we've been very, very fortunate.
And then from there, was it just a logical thing then that you went along to become a coach and, work professionally in the industry? Did you have a bit of a gap where you might have done something after school? How did that work out?
Well, it's funny because I've always ridden my entire life. It was always in the back of my mind at school. If there was ever a day where we could have off, I was always riding. I went to a school in Kew, and everyone knew if Kirsten wasn't at school, she was riding. And I was just very, very fortunate to be allowed to be brought up in that type of atmosphere. And I was also, before I took on the horses full time, I was a fashion designer down in Chapel Street, been in the airlines, in operations with Ansett, and I've done quite a few jobs, but I've always gone back to the horses.
And while you were doing the jobs, did you have the horses part-time? Like on the weekends you'd still do horses or?
I was working, I probably worked 10 hours a day, maybe in South Yarra, and then I'd go home and work 3 horses to up to midnight at night time, and then I'd just do it all over again. So it was just a part of my energy and a part of my routine.
Yep.
And, you just didn't think twice about it. It was never a burden. It was always an enjoyment. But I have to say also I had my family behind me supporting me, so I was very, very fortunate to be allowed to do what I did.
Yes.
And if I had to work or go overseas for some work business function, I always had my family backing up and helping me with it. So, yes, I was very fortunate.
That makes a difference. Yeah. And what do you think are the core skills if people are looking for a career in horses now? What do you think are the core skills or the character traits that they need?
Honestly, I have to say, if anyone comes to us and wants to work and learn, you must have a work ethic. I think if you do not have a work ethic or a positive drive to want to learn and improve, then in this industry you will struggle. And I've seen a lot of clients that I've also had when they're young. If they don't have the willing drive and power, honestly, they will struggle in this industry. So that's really the main importance, because it's hard work. It is a hard work industry, but it's wonderful. Yeah, definitely.
And you've said about Linda and Virginia and Andrew. Is there anyone else that's really influenced you?
Definitely. There's many, many people. We have literally grown up for the past 14 years with a gentleman from Queensland named Ben Conn as well, who literally accelerated my dressage career and my training. He really was, and he still is, a biomechanical specialist that just allowed me to accelerate my learning and understanding. So my daughter also trains with him in Europe when we come and go, as he has a barn in Germany at the moment. I've trained with Laura Bechtelsheimer, who was one of the Olympians for England. My daughter's just finished training with Spencer Wilton, who is also an Olympian in England. We've had many German trainers come over, Leonie Brummel. So we try to grasp and allow ourselves to learn as much as possible from as many coaches. We're very blessed, especially in Australia. We're very close friends with Brett Parbury, who also rides for Australia, and also Marie Tompkinson. So they're always willing to open their doors and help Georgia if she ever needs some touch-up training before a big competition.
Yep.
Another family, not only Andrew, but also Alistair and Ricky up at the AEBC. We take our young horses up there as well and do training with horses in crowds, and we try to put our horses into situations that we don't want to personally be in at competitions, but we do train for that moment in case we do have a situation to make sure that, you know, you can ride through that incident. So the AEBC has been a great influence.
Good. And horses. Who do you think the horses have influenced you the most?
Personally, I had a horse named, she's still in the back paddock. She's 24 years old, and her name is Jess, which was Schultz Noir. She is by Tintagel Magic, which is one of Andrew McLean's old stallions, out of our Jill Schultz mare, and that Jill Schultz mare has bred us some of the best FEI horses that we've ever produced, and we're absolutely blessed to still have them. And another one that we had was an import that her name was Cassiopeia, who unfortunately passed away this year due to uveitis, which was a terrible disease which she acquired. And she also bred us some incredible horses from Germany. And the main horse that we have right now is a German horse that we imported named Wildlife X, and he's trained to Grand Prix, and he's my daughter's horse, so he arrived last year.
Pretty special horse, yeah.
Yes, very special horse, so yeah.
What do you think's your proudest moment that you've had?
Personally, for myself, I think being able to take my horses from nothing to a high level, and just being able to produce them myself. I think that's really the proudest moment in my life. But now, since I've had to pass the gauntlet because of my back injury, it's just watching my daughter achieve and become the rider that she is now, as she's now training Grand Prix. So that's been a very exciting blessing for our whole family, that she's now able to sort of ride for our state and / country in the future.
Yeah. Has that been your biggest challenge, your back injury, or have you got another one?
Well, unfortunately, we did have Black Saturday. We had to endure quite a few years ago. That was quite horrific for our whole family.
Yep.
And also, the loss of certain horses. When you live on a farm, there's always loss, there's always life. And, it's sort of that sort of situation, unfortunately. But I think my back finally gave way a year ago, where I had to end up having major surgery, and I'm just now able to start riding again very, very carefully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm sure it would have affected you quite a lot. We don't realise when we have good health how good it is.
Oh, definitely. Yes. I can actually understand and sympathise with elite athletes in any sport when it's been your whole life and your drive, and when it's taken away from you, it can affect you mentally and physically. But I've also been very, very fortunate to train my daughter through the levels to keep me going, and also because of, going on to new small businesses within the equine community. So that's been a great assistance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So one of those small businesses has been saddle fitting, and I know that you're a qualified saddle fitter. What do you think is a common problem that horses have? Because it's the horse's problem, more so if the rider has a problem with the saddle, they do something about it straight away. But if the horse has a problem, it could be ongoing and affects them in a lot of different ways. What's a common problem that affects horses that riders maybe aren't aware of that can be fixed fairly easily?
The most common situation, and this is one of the reasons why I became a saddle fitter with ASFA and also in Europe, was because I'm a trainer, coach, and I was riding most horses that came here. Due to badly fitting saddles, and the horses were very uncomfortable, was the saddles were actually overflocked that made the saddles hard on the horse's back. The other one was what we call bridging, where you have pressure points on the corners of the saddle in the tree and the tree points, and we would actually find that the horses didn't want to move underneath you when you were asking them to do a movement. The way that you could see this was when you took the saddle off, if there were dry spots or brushed marks on their coat, that sort of gave you an indication of where the saddle wasn't actually working correctly on the horse's back. Mm-hmm. But this is actually one of the major reasons why I did become a saddle fitter, was because most horses that were coming for training had the wrong saddles. And it's just a part of now. We've kind of evolved to become more aware of comfort for our horses, and also a very important component is making sure the saddle also fits the rider. Mm-hmm. So we now have better access to better saddles throughout the world, and this is one of the reasons why I import for custom saddles from Holland, and which I'm very, very blessed to be a part of, because they also supply some of the biggest Olympic riders in the world. So, yeah.
Wait, can you hear anything? No? That's because we're waiting for someone with a good quality horse product to be advertised here. If that's you, then contact us, horsechats@horsechats.com, and we'll send you the details. Thanks. So when you say a saddle fitting the rider, obviously the right size, right position, is that it, or is there more to it than that?
It's pretty much finding a saddle that is what we call allowing you to sit in a sweet spot in the saddle, where you don't have to keep putting yourself back into that position to enable you to have a better moment of forwardness or balance. It comes down to whether the saddle could be too wide for your hips, or whether the knee block is too big that it pushes your leg backwards. And this is a very important component, where the better you sit and the better you are balanced, the better the horse is going to be as well. So your timing is better in a moment of forwardness, or asking the horse to slow down or go sideways.
Okay.
It's one thing that I really love is watching a horse and rider change as you play around with different saddles. Yeah.
All right. So the three main problems there, the overflocking, the bridging, and the finding the sweet spot. If a rider can find the sweet spot, they feel like they're not constantly checking. The bridging, I understand, because of the taking the saddle off, seeing where the patches are that aren't sweating.
Yes.
The overflocking, how can people check about the overflocking?
Well, you can either flip your saddle upside down so the panels are looking at you, and you can feel over the panels whether they're very hard. So if you can press your fingers into them and they feel like they're, you're pressing into a nice mattress, then the flocking is quite good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're pressing into flocking that feels like wood, then you have to then imagine what that is then giving the horse as they're trying to lift their back and move underneath you.
Okay.
And that's why some horses become sore in the back and then they become behavioural.
So the overflocking, is that caused by someone pushing too much flocking into the amount of space, or does that come with time?
Yes, correct. No, well, it does come with time. It does, yes, but it's also the saddle fitting person pushing too much flocking in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we are evolving now in our country that we can now fit trees to horses' backs and then go from that tree that may fit the horse to then making the saddle around that tree. So, yeah, we're very fortunate.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and this is to do with acupuncture, what's the most common thing that can be fixed with acupuncture?
When I was doing it full time before my injury, the biggest call-outs, believe it or not, were for horses foundering and laminitic issues. I have training with the Queensland Institute of Acupuncture under the equine, where we're able to use certain needles on what we call ting points around their feet to allow them to almost bleed a little bit, and this then alleviates the pressure. It's brilliant. I think Chinese medicine is just beyond our world. It is phenomenal. We've used it for hormones. We've used it for laminitic issues. I do use it for horses that have sore backs as well. And then, it then also starts to complement the training. It starts to complement the hormone levels of the horses. It complements the muscles and then the saddles. So they all play a very key component to each other. So, it's very important.
So it's really a holistic.
Oh, it's very, very holistic. But it's to see the horses the next day, it's phenomenal. Another one we also do is a relaxation point acupuncture that allows the horses to be less stressed.
Okay.
And you can see it in their eyes. You can see the proof. It's wonderful.
Yep. And is that good for people who are at competitions to go there or beforehand? When's the best time for that?
We do it before. We don't do it at competitions.
Mm-hmm.
Some can. It's just there's certain ruling now in place with people acupuncturing at competitions due to the new laws that are in place. But, we mainly do it at home or with clients' horses that need work done through. And you can also use as a manipulation as well, just to allow the muscles to relax.
Okay.
It is a wonderful, wonderful tool to have,
Okay. And have you got a book that you'd recommend just to sort of help with this whole holistic or training or,
Well, my main book that I've always gone back to is Klaus Backenhall. He is one of the masters of the original training, and he also was one of the main trainers for Laura Bechtelsheimer, who is one of our best English writers in the world. And it's just, under the coffee table in the lounge room, we do have a list of books that we always do go back to with any questions. But it's always going back to classical training.
Okay. That's a book called The Art of Riding, is it?
Yeah, I think so. But the other book that we do always come and look at is Andrew McLean's books. We always come under the coffee table if we've got any questions. We're very much into a neurological approach as well with our horses and our training, and that's where Andrew McLean's books are just incredible.
Okay.
It just gives you a better clarity of understanding what the horse sees as to how you react as a rider or trainer.
Yes, yeah. And coming from not just a general equestrian coach, because he is, but complementing that with the scientific background as well.
Yes. All right. Yeah, it's wonderful. It is wonderful. But we also have a science. We're pretty much a science mathological family. So we love to sort of also read proof in scientific experiments to have a better understanding of what happens with the horses.
Yep. And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. Kirsten, what are you looking forward to now?
The future, me riding again.
Yep.
It's very important for me. It's amazing what you lose when you have something taken away from you so quickly, unfortunately. But I'm looking forward to maybe Paralympics. I am now allowed to do that because of my situation with my spine. But the main thing is to keep training Georgia to follow her dreams and represent Australia. We also have a horse in Europe which will be ready for her next year if she wishes to stay over there, but she has now been invited to England to go and ride and train with some very, very special people. So but that's going to be really our dream, to be able to support her, to enable her to achieve her dreams. Good. Yeah.
Okay. Kirsten, can you sum up your philosophy into a lesson today for our listeners?
Equestrian, you must have passion, you must have drive, you must have patience. Life is a journey. Sometimes we go backwards, sometimes we go forwards. Expectations are always high, but as long as your expectations aren't too high, you will always achieve.
Okay. All right, and Kirsten, how can people contact you?
I'm on Facebook under Kirsty Beard or Chevelle Sport, which is our other business, Equine Horse Rugs. I'm also contactable on kirsty@chevellesport.com.au. But we are also Carlisle Park Warmbloods in Yan Yan, and everything is obtainable through the internet or Facebook. Okay,
great. And that will be also on horsechats.com/Kirsten Beard Adams, or else just search Kirsten. Okay. Kirsten, thanks very much for talking to us. It's certainly been enjoyable.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And very interesting, just having that extra insight about saddle fitting and acupuncture.
I just think it's such an important component now to enable your horses to improve and to also read and understand the signs when the things aren't going correctly. And to be able to educate people for the future, and also especially our young riders. I think that's just pertinent.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
All right. Thanks, Kirsten. Hope to catch up with you again sometime.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.